Hey everyone, when was the last time you were truly surprised and satisfied by a series? Seriously satisfied by the twists and turns within that story. That kind of thing has become incredibly rare lately, and that's why this Apple TV series Widow's Bay was such a nice surprise for me. It looked like such an ordinary, everyday show that I didn't really appreciate what I was getting myself into when I first started watching it. Everything about the marketing just made it look so incredibly familiar, like so many other disappointing shows before, which is why I kind of kept avoiding it. Then, on a lark, I decided to watch the first episode when I heard it was filmed near where I live. Plus, I heard that it had some really dark comedy to it, and I'm kind of a sucker for dark comedy when it's done really well. So, here's the hilarious thing. As I'm watching the first episode, I suddenly find myself live texting a friend of mine that she just has to watch this series. I can't remember the last time that I had that reaction. So, why did this story feel so ordinary while the series was so unpredictable? Widow's Bay is quintessential New England irony stitched together with Boston's wicked sense of humor, disguised as common sense. That's one reason why these two things, the ordinary and the unpredictable, work so well together in this series. Plus, the quirky combination keeps the story from falling into the trap of the average Hollywood TV series playbook that we get. Instead, we get this weird and quirky series that takes place on an island off the New England coastline. It's a small but tight-knit community led by Mayor Tom Loftis, who's trying to bring more tourists to stimulate the struggling economy. But the eccentric locals, paired with some wild old superstitions, the kind that every town has, and a whole bunch of strange stories about the island's history, they all converge to complicate matters when a famous travel writer shows up to review the island. Mayor Tom Loftis, played by Matthew Rhys, has these really big ideas for the island. He wants to make it the next Martha's Vineyard. And you know what? He's so close to doing that. Meanwhile, Wyck, this superstitious old fisherman played by Stephen Root, keeps coming by the office and telling him he's got to raise the alarm because it's all happening again. Caught between his own suppressed superstitious beliefs about the island, beliefs that he has desperately tried ignoring, and Wick's crazy warnings, Mayor Loftus' life is getting turned upside down by wild stories about supernatural creatures and his own personal demons. His grand plan to modernize Widow's Bay and bring more tourists to the island should make this story feel a whole lot more like a modern drama than a wickedly funny horror story, and yet that's exactly where this series lands. Widow's Bay is filled with these winks and nods, as well as some truly fantastic Easter eggs toward old established tropes and story elements that feel like they belong in a show that we've seen a million times on network TV. And yet, surprising. What we get here sets the series apart, and it's this combination of complex character development, actors, actors who disappear into their roles, and storylines that sit just outside of our ordinary world, which ultimately create believable characters within these strange but ordinary situations. In a way, I think it's our everyday familiarity with these types of characters and situations that end up helping the series to create the feeling of surprise that we get. What I mean by this is that because of our familiarity with these kinds of setups, we start predicting the payoff for those moments before the story shows us where it's actually going. In some cases, it pays off as expected, but in other cases, it doesn't. And in most situations, there's always some odd little twist that keeps the story from feeling like this cookie cutter horror. With the mayor, we get a man who spent his summers on the island as a kid and then married a local woman, which kind of locked him into this strange community. Then there is Wyck, the old fisherman who has pretty much seen everything and knows everything and keeps telling everyone that the bad things are coming. We also get the mayor's weird and quirky assistant, Patricia, who survived something horrifying as a child, and nobody really believes her story, which paints her as the lonely outsider within her own town. Pulling all of these characters together are stories of the boogeyman, the sea witch, old cemeteries, and a devil's bargain, as well as nods to unique local customs and lore that turn the location into a character. From the New England fog to regional superstitions and generations of island history that everyone seems to think about just a little bit differently. There is one bit of truth that guides the decisions of every islander. Nobody born on the island ever leaves the island. All of these bits of lore and superstition contrast against modern life as we know it, which gives Widow's Bay the creative runway for some really clever twists and turns that make the ordinary look and feel of the series and the overstuffed story tropes feel uniquely creepy in this utterly normal looking vacation destination. The tension within the storylines for each episode comes from the natural push and pull of how the logical and illogical moments kind of come together to create these interactions that you absolutely see coming. However, it's how your expectations are paid off that keep the surprises feeling fresh and unpredictable. Still, you can't help but feel that little bit of satisfaction with each payoff in the story as you get that sly little moment of feeling like you knew that thing, it was coming all along. And then it happens, only to take the story somewhere you might not have been anticipating or expecting at all. Some of these moments feel a little too conveniently timed, and some of the revelations come in a way that can feel like the story lingered a bit before resolving the conflict or paying off the moment that was foreshadowed earlier in the series. The season itself resolves in a fairly predictable way that still manages to unwrap its own surprise. In most cases, the transition between conflict and payoff also carry the risk of feeling old and tired. But then the writing kicks in with a wry jab or some dark comedic subtext that turns the ordinary into something absurd, which really pins down the exceptional combination of writing and acting and directing that make the series arc feel natural and seamless. What's great about how these moments unravel within the story is that it never feels like the writers suddenly change the rules to accommodate a plot hole or solve the problem via deus ex machina. Conflicts aren't resolved with moments of situational convenience, but with creative plotting. Everything fits the story world and the odd tapestry of New England lore that feels uniquely suited to this series. The trick is that Widow's Bay gives you all of the puzzle pieces, but each episode gives you a slightly different take on the picture that is being pieced together. From a catastrophic nor'easter to Patricia's special party and the mayor's realization of what is actually happening on the island, so much of the tension comes from the juxtaposition between what seems to be happening and what is actually happening. Meanwhile, we get to watch the mayor come to terms with the long buried superstitions that he grew up hearing about, but was never willing to admit until now. It's his changing perspective, though, that kind of is caught between wanting or needing to deny the reality of what he knows and the impossible reality that he can see right there in front of him that makes his journey so interesting. Makes it so much easier for us to stay with him as a main character as well. It's also why our perspective changes along with his in a way that helps us to accept the natural as well as the supernatural almost before he does. We get this snarky little sense of satisfaction at being right, even as the mayor begins to believe, even as he confronts this all new set of horrors at what the truth actually is going to mean for his family. Those uncomfortable truths are offset by interactions with characters like Rosemary, one of the mayor's assistants, who has also seen a lot of weird things in her time and who is possibly the show's best truth bomber. Her witty comments come across as a bit too on the nose at times, but her offbeat delivery style makes her dialogue so much funnier and so much darker. The writing, the directing, the acting together, all of it, it makes it obvious that nothing we see is accidental and that this is all planned out. This creative team knows how to build a compelling first season that should have felt a lot more ordinary and a lot less imaginative. The more I think about Widow's Bay after finishing the series, the more I realize that this is becoming one of my favorite new TV shows. It's so rare to find something that is equally clever and fun that can also turn an ordinary everyday story into something that feels so unpredictable. Apple TV has been creating some of the best new series on streaming. And this series, it was well worth the price of my subscription because it was better than most movies being produced today. If you are a fan of horror, drama, and humor, I think you're going to find a lot here to enjoy. Also, if you liked the Netflix series Midnight Mass, you'll also get a little bit of that flavor in Widow's Bay. But this series, it doesn't stand around talking to itself or taking itself too seriously. It gets in and it gets out pretty quickly, presenting each new conflict in a way that is entertaining. And I think that says it all. Widow's Bay, it's just entertaining. If you watched it, I would actually love to know what you thought about this. Did you enjoy the dark humor and the supernatural plot twists? Did the combination of dark horror and dark humor work for you? I would really love to know your take on Widow's Bay. So definitely join me down in the chat. If you enjoyed this review, please also give the video a thumbs up and subscribe for more. You will absolutely make my day. Thank you so much. And hey, while you're here, why not check out one of these other reviews or videos and let me know what you think because YouTube says that you're going to like one of them at least a whole lot. Thanks so much, everybody. I'll see y'all again soon. In the meantime, happy viewing. Bye for now.